Evening, dear sisters and brothers. A very warm welcome to the evening session of Being Heartful Every Day with Swadhyaya. Tonight, we continue our journey into the essence of creativity. We have been exploring how this isn't just an artistic skill but a way of life, a natural expression of a sincere heart. Tonight, let's explore a new dimension, the relationship between the creativity and our inner will, and how both are refined on the heartfulness path. Our will is our inner power, the force that directs our attention and energy. For an Abhyasi, the spiritual journey is about aligning this personal will with the divine will. When our will is scattered or driven by desires, our actions and thoughts can become fragmented or uninspired. However, when our will is focused and surrendered, it becomes a powerful change for creativity. It is this directed will, purified through our practices, that enables us to manifest our intentions with grace and effectiveness. This is why a simple act performed with focused intention can have a much greater impact than a grand gesture done without it. The ultimate goal is to move from a state of conscious willing to a state of effortless flow. This is where true creativity thrives. In the beginning, we might have to consciously direct our will to sit for meditation, to remember the presence, or to make a conscious effort to be kind. Over time, as our heart becomes purified and our connection deepens, this effort gives way to a spontaneous flow. Our will becomes aligned with the divine, and our actions, words, and even thoughts are no longer forced. They simply happen. This state of flow is the hallmark of a truly creative life in the heartfulness way. It is when we are not just doing our spiritual practices, but living them. And when we reach this state, creativity is not something we have to try for. It is the natural consequences of being in harmony with our higher self. It is a grace that allows us to find the perfect solution, say the right words, or even feel a deep sense of peace, even in chaos. In a sense, a heartful life is the highest form of creative expression. Our daily journey is a canvas on which we paint our spiritual evolution. Our prayers are a creative dialogue with the divine. Our moments of reflection are a way of creatively re envisioning ourselves. And every single action, from the smallest to the largest, is an opportunity to infuse our unique essence into them. In this way, creativity is not just a part of the spiritual journey, it is the very essence of it. It is the way of living a conscious, meaningful, and a purposeful life. Dear sisters and brothers, with this we move forward in the session. The kind request that you share the invitation for BHED sessions and heartfulness master classes with your family and with your friends. And we resume our reading from the article Imagination. This article is by beloved Taji. This visionary quality of imagination has been described by philosophers of all cultures of thousands of years and is encapsulated by Einstein in his statement: imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress, giving birth to evolution. Yet, this sort of imagination is very far from the ordinary, imaginary, static, or noise in our field of consciousness that we know as Vikalpa. So it is the same fundamental aspect of the human being that leads to both magnificent visions and delusional fantasies, which allows us to imagine something that does not exist. The four mental functions of Chit, Manas, Buddhi, and Ahankar may allow us to think of new concepts, project our existing experience into new dimensions, and use our willpower to bring about change. But these four subtle bodies cannot create something new out of nothing without the Atman. The combination of thinking, man, the movement, At, that is the soul. It is the divine aspect of our being that is able to create. So it is a combination of the subtle bodies and the soul that gives us our faculties of imagination and creativity. In fact, the concept of imagination raises many questions, including, can we create something completely new that has never existed before? Or do we catch something that already exists in the ether that cannot yet be verified by the senses? I repeat, can we create something completely new that has never existed before? Or do we catch something that already exists in the ether that cannot yet be verified by the senses? Perhaps it exists in the higher dimensions already. I will leave you to ponder over these questions about imagination in general, but let's now turn our attention to the lowest type of imagination, Vikalpa. Why do these random imaginary thoughts come into our minds and where do they come from? Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress, giving birth to evolution. Albert Einstein. Vikalpa. Vikalpa is the background fantasy in our field of consciousness. It creates constant noise in the system. It exists because there are accumulated complexities and impurities in our field of consciousness, which are also known as samskars or impressions. In an attempt to purify consciousness, the mind is always trying to throw them out, and so they surface as thoughts. The more complex the impressions, the more complex the vikalpas. They may bubble up from our subconscious in the same way that dreams move when we are sleeping. In fact, the psychotherapist Carl Jung developed active imagination as a meditation technique so that the contents of the subconscious mind could surface as images, narratives, or separate entities. He used this technique to serve as a bridge between the conscious and the unconscious and worked with dreams as well as imagination and fantasy. Jung's aim was to bring about harmony and integration from fragmented and dissociated parts of the human mind. Dear brothers and sisters, let us take a few moments to absorb the essence of what we have just read from the article Imagination. And now let us offer the universal prayer together. All brothers and sisters are being filled with love and devotion, and real faith is growing stronger in them. सभी भाई बहन प्रेम और भक्ति से भर रहे हैं और उनमें सच्ची श्रद्धा दृढ़ होती जा रही है. This universal prayer awakens unity, love, and bring hearts together in a shared spirit of peace. Dear sisters and brothers, as you prepare for the rest tonight, take a few quiet moments for inner reflection and the bedtime prayer. Gently look back on your day, not with a judgment, but with a heart of inquiry, and offer these reflections in prayer, trusting that you are being guided, and then rest in the peace of that feeling. You may also find it helpful to write down any insights that came to you. Dear sisters and brothers, thank you for joining us and for your commitment to this inner work. The reflections we share strengthen our connection to ourselves and to each other. And we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for the morning session at 6 a.m. to continue our explorations and reflections on the theme of creativity and movement. Wishing you all a very good night and have a good rest.